Hi, everybody. Welcome to Boulton from Boulton. This is the show where my brother Josh and I set each other up for lively hockey talk and banter. We are currently in our 2020 Stanley Cup playoff series. Playoffs. I don't know. I might have hit something there, Josh. We'll talk about that a little later. Calling it the playoffs already. How's it going over there?
Pretty good.
Yeah. All right. It's pretty good. All right. He's just waiting to go here. All right, we got a little bit of a lineup here. We're talking about these eliminations that just occurred, how we feel about them, and then a couple other things to mention, and we're out. So, Josh, how did your day go?
It was horrible. Elimination Friday was like Black Friday. It was the worst. Like, it was really bad. So you have Nashville.
Give it to us.
And they're playing Arizona. And they're out shooting them like 100-2 for the fourth game in a row. This is the third game in the series. They had over 40 shots, and they're down by one. And I'm just like, here we go again. And the time's ticking away. And then they tied the game with like 20 seconds left. And I screamed so loud that Denise is going, oh, boy, you almost broke the dishes. I got up. I was hooting and hollering. I ran over and like slammed the counter and everything. Like I was so excited. Nashville's still in it, baby. And then they just go ahead and blow it in overtime. Like there was like no point in that. So I was on a super high, and then it went down to a low. And it's like, and then by the time that happened, because that game was alternating with Penguins Canadians, so there was like a period of this and then a period of that. So there was only like part of the third period left. By the time I had the Nashville dagger, then I'm already watching Montreal, Pittsburgh going, this is not looking too good, but it's still nothing, whatever. And then just a few moments after I turn to it, Montreal scores. So there's another, it's like, and then I'm counting that down, and I'm like, I'm less stressed out at this point because I'm like, Pittsburgh's not going to score.
They're not going to score.
They're not going to score. And then they didn't. So then there's that. And then I have those two blows, and it's like 5 minutes before the Oilers game starts, and I'm like, do I even want to watch this now? Like, I don't think I can handle another loss. And that's my real team. Those were my two warm-up teams, and I'm thinking, whatever, if one of them gets in at least out of the two, I'll be happy. They both blew it, and then I'm getting ready for the Oilers. So like, and then that game, like, I wish I'd have turned it off after the first 45 seconds because the rest of it was bollocks. Like, they didn't even show up. It's like they didn't even try and win.
So you were disappointed in the Oil's effort, is that right? What did you think about? How did you read their? Why did they fail in that to you? How did it look to you and feel?
It looked like they didn't have any emotion. Like, I know they did have emotion, but it looked like they didn't have any emotion. It looked like they were just lost. Like they didn't have any fight. There was no excitement or like, let's make a game of this. There was like, it was a struggle. The game just looked hard and tiring, and just, it broke my will watching it. Like it broke the spirit of me watching the game. So that's the way it looked like they were playing too. Like, oh, these guys again.
The question is too, I felt the same kind of broken spirit, I guess, and hopelessness and helplessness watching the Penguins, because it's almost like, how would you affect it if you were there? I wonder if it's possible to really get them going, but in some way I felt like, who is going to get them going? And again, it was like I said, I think on the last show, where I felt like I was a person on the bench and everybody was just scared. Everybody was scared. Like, are we going to get knocked out? This is the Penguins I'm talking about now, again, not the Oilers. And are they, are we going to get knocked out, or can somebody do something? And there was just, it was like that fearful hockey. I remember they said back famously in the 2009 when they won the cup, they were going to Game 7 with Detroit, and Mario Lemieux texted all the players, if you know this story, right? And he texted them all on the game day, and he said, play without fear, and I'll see you at center ice. And all the guys talked about how I just getting that message from Mario Lemieux, right? Where they just thought like it just gave them that confidence, and they played without fear. And I felt it was such a fearful effort by the Penguins, and they were just, everything was a little off. So I even felt like Mike Sullivan himself as the coach, I don't know what's going on with all the levers, but I felt the whole series, as far as juggling lines, changing the goalie when at what time or who he had, it was always like a little offbeat. If he's the conductor, he was just like one beat off the whole time. He would then he'd put Rust with Crosby and Gensel for a bit, but it's like, why you should have done that like early on in some other time or whatever. It's like, again, I'm not telling Mike Sullivan how to coach. I'm just saying that it looked like stuff was almost like you're riding it, and then you do make your move, and then you're like, oh, I wish I'd done that here, and it's not the right time. And then you go back and then everybody was just not feeling following their instincts, feeling confident. And I really felt, like you said, they're not scoring. This is not, I mean, I was hoping, but it was just hope. And it was demoralizing.
Exactly. Well, the other interesting thing I found, I mean, first of all, I was like 3-0 in my series picks going into those 3 games. So I thought, well, if I get 1, that's fine. I'm still ahead. Or now I'm sitting here 4-3, hoping I don't go to 500 tonight. But because this is right before the Leafs Columbus game, by the way, that's when we're recording. So
that's right, everybody. Leafs and Columbus coming up very soon. The next show we'll be talking all about that and other things. So, but sorry, Josh, go ahead. But
no. The other part is like, I literally out of the 8 teams that faced 1 elimination game, Toronto's the only team that won 1. It was like nobody fought back. Nobody put up a fight.
I know. I found that amazing too. Just the idea of what is, okay, the probabilities, all that stuff. It's like, okay, there's going to be a couple comebacks and a couple that are not. Who's not gonna? So I thought like some of the things that I was hoping more for, I was like, one of them is probably not gonna. Maybe a couple will. Hopefully, my teams fall into the ones that do make it a series. Nope, nobody had anything. I'll tell you one thing.
I can't believe. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, but you just mentioned your picks. As I mentioned on the other show, for Everett, your son's sake, I was kind of, hoping Nashville would win, but I did pick Arizona. So at least I get 1 on the board, because I think that's all I'm going to get out of the whole thing. I'm telling you. Oh, man. No, but I got the Isles and whatever. But anyway, I had a couple. I don't know my score yet, but I'll see at the end of it all how many I picked right. But it won't be very good.
No. And so tonight we took the dogs for a walk, and one of my neighbors was sitting on his deck. Didn't say hi or anything, just Toronto or Columbus. And I won't tell you what I yelled, but his reaction was, "Oh, go away with you." So He's got a clear favorite, and it's obviously the talk of the town is this game. So
wow, yeah, it is. Now, I've said all what I said about from the Pens' perspective, and they're demoralized, and they didn't do this and they didn't do that. Let's give some props to Montreal Canadiens. I know we got a lot of Canadiens fans watching, and it's maybe seems like we're kind of putting them down all the time, and looking, it's all hope and everything if they're ever going to get it. Look, they just played the game they had to play, and they also played more than the game they had to play. I thought they kind of came with they came and attacked, and they came in and. They really stifled the Penguins, which is really part of what they're trying to do. And it was hard for them to get anything going, which is part of what, you needed to give something extra to break through and then create your space to be the Penguins, right? But it doesn't just come.
Right.
And they didn't fight. It's like amazing. And
it's
Montreal.
Not like Carey Price. It's not like Carey Price was the only reason either. Like they didn't just win everything 1-0 and get outplayed. They like we said, they demoralized the Penguins. They looked lost.
It wasn't. You got to give now. It was Carey a lot. He just got in the minds of the Penguins. They wouldn't shoot sometimes when they might want to shoot, that kind of thing. And it also gave the Canadiens that confidence, because they just go. It just doesn't. You have that feeling. You got like the goalie's hot, whoever it is, and you just go, "This is great. I don't have to be nervous chipping it out, doing this, or that's a point shot and I got to block it and I'm boxing out because it's just going to bounce in. I know it's going to bounce in. It's just like no, it's just going to get stuck to them and be knocked away. Like they just don't. They didn't have that fear, and I think the Penguins felt fearful. And usually Matt Murray gave that to them, but he didn't give them that. He was good. He was good, but he didn't give them that one that they usually used to get out of him, which was just like, we can do anything, like Matty Murray, right? And Jari was excellent, but they still had that little bit of like, they didn't know he was going to be excellent because they were like, threw into this situation. So they were almost like, we don't want it to bounce through, and then how will he feel? And then we'll be all great. It just was, I've said it so many times, but I felt like it was fearful hockey, not fearless, and that blew it for them. And Montreal just took it to them and just rode on that, pushed on that, and said, yeah, does that hurt? Yeah, fearful? Stop it. You just let us try with it. It was pathetic. It was demoralizing, and it really sucked the life out of me for that day. But I just decided to put it away, and I'm looking forward to all the next action. Really. So,
Mm.
like let's just enjoy the hockey now, because at least I don't have to stress about it anymore. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Now, with all that, Josh, I do want to say one thing that also occurred to me about. I said a lot of the fear and the lack of will to push through and who's going to do what. I know that it sounds so biased because I'm talking about Sid, but Sidney Crosby, he was good the whole time. I felt like most shifts every time I saw him, he was battling, winning puck battles, doing his little thing where he's on the boards and somehow he comes out and then makes a pass to somebody and makes something happen out of nothing. He was fighting
Mhm.
through stuff. He was playing the D. He's just every time there's a offensive draw, snap it right back, and they're getting a chance. They're playing in the offensive zone. So even that kind of stuff. Like you said, McDavid was like him and Taves lose, Draisaitl, Taves lose, right? I mean, Sid wasn't losing. He was like, I'm making stuff happen every time, and I felt like he was looking really good and inspired. But I just don't understand how everything else didn't follow. It wasn't just because he scored a couple goals, but I thought that he was making stuff happen the whole time. So I was like happy with him. So at least wasn't concerned about that. I was concerned about Gino.
Well,
Are we going to find
do
out
you
he
know
was
what's
hurt or
funny
something?
about? You're talking about Crosby, and he played well, but came up short. And I'm talking about McDavid. Not that McDavid played horribly, but there was just a lot of times where they should have won the battle and should have done better, and they didn't. But he still ends up he's leading the league in scoring. Like he just, like you said, he just scores in his sleep. Like it's nothing.
I
Like
know.
game one, and they lost, and he has 3 points, and they looked like crap, but he still gets 3 points on the board. They were all power play, I think, but still, like whatever.
Whatever. I
Someone's
mean,
got to get
your
points.
power play can win you series. What if the Pens have racked up
Exactly.
a few points in the power play? I think I could have done with a few power play points from Gino, but
Well, what is with that? 0 for like 18 or 47, whatever you want to pick a number. They were 0 for. Same with the Oilers in the last game. They were 0 for 5, including a 5-minute major. Like that stuff kills you.
that's part of I'll tell you. So a lot of it, there's a bit of a fearful stuff. Is fear of carry. They were not shooting sometimes when they might have shot. They wanted to make another pass because they think they have to tick it around and get it on the outside of them or something. It's like just shoot on them. Nothing. Mike Sullivan. Nothing breaks up D zone coverage like a shot on goal. Do it. And then also on top of that, what I was saying about Mike Sullivan not pushing the right buttons, like switch up the power play early. Like go ahead, break it up. But it's just like, oh, how far should I run? Oh, then I change and it's too late, and I want to go back to them now because they're the big thing. Just be more willing to mix it up and get going and change stuff up and break this series open, because there was nothing else, right? There was nothing else to push them into life. So I don't know. I mean, the whole thing was just a nightmare. And again, like I said, I'm just looking forward to the next hockey. But some people aren't, Josh. You were telling me, what were you telling me about? You tweeted something about this.
I tweeted something because I saw people talking about like, oh, like usually they're asking who should I hope for. It's like, oh, they're done watching. Like that's it. Their team's out. Uh, they're worried about what's triggered it. Is they're worried about like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if McDavid and Crosby and Malkin and Matthews were all out in the first round? Wouldn't the NHL lose their minds then? Wouldn't that be a horrible thing to have happen with no? And I'm thinking, why? Who's not still watching? But then, so I put it out there and said, is this really a thing, not watching the playoffs anymore just because your team's out? Seriously? And I think I got 5 responses within 45 minutes, and they were all like, yeah, except for one. One guy at the end tacked on, only people will stop watching. Hockey fans will keep watching. I thought that was kind of funny.
That's what occurred to me when you were just bringing this up right now. I was like, well, the NHL might be worried, because it is true that, like what if some Canadians who are not particular soccer fans, it's like they're watching the World Cup and Ronaldo and Messi are out, and it's like, what am I watching? Who's this guy? Right? I mean, that's it. But hockey fans indeed won't. They're going to be enjoying the hockey. And, this goes to another thing I said to people, one of the earlier shows, like you have to have a few teams, to live in the world today. 31 teams, get behind a few teams that are good. Like, I'm going to be going and looking through to Nathan McKinnon now, the Nate Dogg on Colorado. I'm going to be rooting, pulling for the Avs. I think they're exciting anyway, and I like them, but it just sounds fun to me. I think that's kind of who I'm going to adopt and go through. And I'm going to enjoy a few other teams, and then other teams who just emerge and show me like their passion, and I'll be getting behind those stories and those players and enjoying all that and saying, oh, this is great. So, the whole thing's going to be awesome. It's still excellent. Like,
speaking of which, Philadelphia. I mean, how good are they doing, right? So I'm like, and I picked them I picked them to like advance in their seeds. I kind of had in my head that they were going to be one of the top seeds coming out. I think I had them second, not first, but I just had this idea that a couple of the other teams would slip down and they would advance up, and they did. And I was kind of all excited when they were doing it. But then I remember thinking a while ago this year they were blowing out a team like really badly, and I remember kind of like being like, these guys are good. Like this game is going very well. It's kind of fun to watch. And then I put out a tweet going like, Philadelphia is winning by a lot, and I think I'm kind of enjoying it. Like I don't normally enjoy Philadelphia. And then underneath, I looked back today and I realized I replied to myself going, well, that didn't last. That's chippiness in the second period and then that sort of scrum. And I remember an incident happened and they were doing crap after the whistle, even when they were up. And it was like, oh, this is why I don't like that. Mm-hmm. But now, like I haven't watched them in a while because I don't like to watch them. And then going into the playoffs, though, I'm trying to be unbiased and honest with myself, and I'm thinking they're going to do well. So then I counted back for whatever reason. I counted back, and I wrote a tweet today saying it's been 234 days since I last tried to enjoy the Philadelphia Flyers, and now I think I'm going to have to try and do that again. Like it's going to be hard, I think, but they're good.
Were people getting back to you on this, or were you just having conversations with yourself on Twitter? You said you replied to yourself.
I haven't. I was just, by replying to myself, I was giving everyone an update. Saying, yes, nope, right. I'm back off the train. Come on.
Yeah, so I get all that stuff, Josh. Like this whole idea, if you're saying I'm not watching now because there's no Crosby, McDavid, there are every team has at least a couple studs. Like this league is full of exciting players. I don't know what people are talking about if they don't have them. I mentioned Pettersson on the show the other time. Elias Pettersson. I'm hoping for that guy all the time. I think he's so awesome. I told you, I think he reminds me of Datsuk so much. He even wears his socks over the back of his what do they call that? Oh my God, what's that? The back of your skate comes out. Not the tongue.
The only word I can think of right now is tongue. I don't know why.
I know it's the opposite of the tongue, the back tongue, and it's amazing because there is an easy word for that. But most people have it hanging out the back, right? I mean, that's how I did and everything. You like to be able to cover the whole thing, right?
I cover the whole thing.
You cover the whole thing, but Datsuk covered the whole thing, right? And Pettersson does that. It just has an extra thing looking like him. Hey, what can you say? Every other awesome player doesn't, but but whatever. That guy is just so awesome. So I'm like, I'm sympathetic to Vancouver now. I got Colorado going with the Nate Dogg, and also just other teams. Somebody's going to step up and show me some passion and excite me. Some team is, some players are, and I'm going to get behind it. I'm going to get excited about it. It's fun. So I don't get this stuff about why would you watch? What team's out? Like what are you talking about? That's why I said earlier. Adopt a few more teams, as I said. Get into the playoffs. Get behind some of these exciting players. It is the playoffs. Or almost. Is it the playoffs?
Oh, right. Everything counts. Nazem Kadri set the record. No one will ever score a later goal in playoff competition because he scored at the very buzzer. That set the record. And someone put out, I can't remember who it is, and I feel bad because it's kind of a popular writer that I follow, but he wrote, the most Connor McDavid stat ever is to lead the league in the playoffs in a year where he didn't even make the playoffs. Like, it's kind of funny.
So we tried to talk about this that time on the other show. Like, is this, do you call it the playoffs? Is it the playing around? How do these stats work? Does he get playoff stats? Does he get credited for playoff stats? So what's your take now? What, because you said, I've been thinking about it more. And what do you think about?
Well, we were talking about the St. Louis Dallas game that just happened this afternoon. And I was telling you about how it went in shootout or overtime 3-on-3 because it plays regular season rules and the other ones play playoff rules. So already there's like a contrast. Like how can all of their stats go towards the same thing when they don't have the same rules even? And then I was thinking like those guys were guaranteed 4 games, all of them. Guaranteed 4 games. And the other teams were only guaranteed 3. They could have got 5, but they could also have only played 3. Whereas the other teams were actually guaranteed 4. So I know in other years, in other playoff years, some series go 7, some go sweeps, but at least they have the opportunity to play the same amount of games. So you can see how maybe the points would fluctuate, but at least they have the option or like I said, the opportunity to play the same game. But here they don't even have the opportunity to play the same amount of games. They're not playing by the same rules. And the top 4 seeds, like I said last week, it's almost harder because they have to play the top 4 seeds.
Let's rack up some points against Washington. Like, what are you talking about?
Who's doing that?
You can rack up points against these 12 seeds coming in, beat up on the you can just lose to all the 12 seeds, everybody. Good God. Yeah, no, exactly. But, I thought of that too. I was thinking at one time, like, Crosby now was moved up on the list to tie Mark Messier, whatever they did of playoff points and all whoever he's tied now on whatever lists and all this stuff. And then it's like, but then what if they ride all the way to the cup? They're going to play 5 rounds, like, so he gets an extra round of playoff history, like, you know what I mean? So how's he, and so it did occur to me. And then when you contrast, you said the other ones, these reseeding, are they playoff games? Because they're not. They're regular season games to try to seed you to get into the playoffs. So they're very clearly not playoff. So these ones, so I'd be more in the camp of calling these play-in rounds, qualifying for the playoffs. As we said, it was like a condensed version of that home stretch where you're trying to leapfrog teams, stay in the playoffs, keep your spot, get into the playoffs. That's what people are trying to do. We condensed it into this. It was always regular season for me, but at the same time, it was definitely, as I said one time, you're fighting for your playoff lives. So in that way, it's like it's the postseason, but not the playoffs or something. So I don't know. But it's a season, so it's not. It was
It made me rethink. Like I said, we're not going to asterisk the winner. I don't want to asterisk the winner. Everything that happens from here on out should be like it's the playoffs. Yeah. But now I want to asterisk all those records. I want to asterisk all the so this team has lost so many playoff rounds in a row now. Well, no, they haven't. That wasn't a playoff round.
Yeah, I'm feeling
that
it.
Sort of thing. Like,
I'm feeling it. They should have. I mean, I don't know. At the end of the day, as we said, we did get hockey. We got a great thing going. We get the Stanley Cup in 2020. We get hockey, which is better than nothing. But I mean, you could have done, I think, maybe a little better on this one, a little more clear, and say, look, this is we are condensing the final end of the season here, and that's how we're going to treat it. Right? It's obviously do or die for you, but it's do or die too in those game 80, 81, 82, right? I've had exciting games with the Red Wings where they're trying to qualify in game 82, right?
Yeah.
And they're like there, and Zetterberg, it's like, oh, he did it, right? It's exciting, like the playoffs, but it ain't the playoffs. It's getting into the playoffs, and that other team's going home. Right. This is back when they used to make it. I'm talking about, and they've also lost those.
For the love of all that is decent, the people are saying, oh, this is so good. They have to come up with some sort of wild card format or playing round format from here on out. And I'm thinking, no, they don't. This is awesome. It's the greatest thing that ever happens, but it should never happen again. I said that right from the start. Do not do this again. You can't do this again. And you just said, because all it is a condensing of the end of the regular season. That's all it is. It is not something they need to do all the time. Let it.
Who's saying we should do it again?
Corey Hirsch even had a tweet saying, "Oh, this is great. They got to have some sort of format like this." No, they don't. Let the regular season go as it is. Let those long stretches. It's not like we have 140 million games like baseball, where the last 60% of the season doesn't even matter to 80% of the teams. This is hockey, where so many teams are battling in the last 4 to 5 games of the season, and like you said, right down to the 82nd game. We don't need to make it any more exciting than it already is.
I am way on board with this is awesome and exciting, and it's like how unique the whole thing is. But I don't want to see any of this stuff again. None of it. Like there's no crowd and stuff. It's interesting. It's like imagine watching how we're watching like just regular our kind of hockey, almost with the best players or tournament feel. All that stuff's exciting. I said it was pure. It was like almost like a pure hockey, back to the roots. You're out of the youth tournament and you're watching the teams. You're hanging out around the hotel with everybody, and that's all true. I don't want to see that crap again. Like I want the NHL hockey. I want the fans in. I want the 16 teams in the playoffs, and let's go. The whole thing, one off, enjoy it, appreciate it, and then done with it. What are you saying?
I feel like Lou in the movie Major League, the manager of the Cleveland Indians.
I'm going to get this one. Go ahead.
Willie Mays Hayes does that basket catch, and he comes off into the dugout, and he's like, "Nice catch, Hayes. Don't ever bleep and do it again." Done. Thank you. Great.
That's right. Very good. Perfect. Now, finally, we're going to go move into the Spezza fight, right? And then this whole thing around it, like, you know, did it change the game? Was it just, it was good? Was it not? What happened? And then maybe we'll go talk about the Leafs game which is going to start in about 10 minutes. And then we'll go get off and go watch it. So what do you got here on the Spezza fight?
Well, 6 minutes left in the second period. Spezza is taking a penalty, so he slashes a guy 87 times, and then is the first one to drop his gloves. And then the guy fights, and his whole bench is, there's a clip of, you know, their whole bench is laughing and have a good time about it. Nobody won the fight. It was almost like, okay. Then Columbus went up 3-0 in the third anyway. Like, does anyone even remember that fight happened? Everyone's going on now. Oh, Spezza this, Spezza that. Oh, Spezza changed the game. What a veteran. He changed his role on the team. He's no longer a scorer. He's fourth line. He'll do anything. That's the passion. It triggered that comeback. Well, I don't see how that really had any bearing on it. I mean, it was whatever. I'm sure the players in that moment were like, he did it. Oh, this is awesome. But then, like, a few minutes passed, and you settle down. And then you play the game. In the third period with 3 minutes left, were they going, remember way back when it was 2-0 and then now it's 3-0 and we had a break in between periods to get ourselves sorted out and everything? That one time Spezza fought? Do you think maybe he went in the last couple of minutes and went, hey guys, I fought. Like, I didn't just do that for no reason. Could you maybe get a goal or two here? I'm sure it did. I'm sure it was at the end saying, okay, guys, you could use that and say, okay, guys, if Spezza is willing to do that, then let's be willing to do something else. But yeah, that's just one thing. They could have said that about anything. They could have said that about a hard hit. They could have said that about anything. It just happened to be a fight it was just one thing that happened in that game where you're trying to use anything possible at all, maybe. But I don't see how that fight in that moment had any bearing on them getting 3 goals and finally being on the right side of a blown 3-goal lead.
Yeah. Well, the first time I saw it too, before I even saw the fight or just whatever, I heard about the time of it and whatever, 2:06 left in the second. And then I'm like, well, didn't they score a third goal after that? Like, what? It wasn't like they just all changed and said, that's a wake-up call, boys. He's doing it. Get dirty. Let's go. And they started making a big push. They went, played out the period, go into the period, down, come out. And then did they score the first goal of the period? No, they went down 3-0, right? I mean, and then they somehow in the 4 minutes. Now that was an unbelievable comeback. That whole thing is some of the most exciting type comeback I've ever seen. I couldn't even believe some of that stuff. But before I talk about that, just on the Spezza fight, look, I still give him the credit for it, right? I'm saying he has changed his role on the team. You can talk about that. He did get, fired up and fought a guy, and that's all good. But it wasn't like they're trying to create something out of it, maybe to boost him up or something that isn't there. Like almost like he was Max Talbot in 2009 or whatever, right? Or against Philly, when they were down, was it a couple goals? And then he fought Carcillo, I think, and then he shushed the crowd in Philly because they were just getting all of it, and he just went to the box and gave him that one. Remember that? That one was, and then that was like the boys said, oh, it's just something. He even got beat up, but he just shushed the crowd and just that thing there was like, yeah, he's behind. Let's go, guys. And they totally changed momentum from that point. That's not what happened in this. They didn't start pushing back. So I don't get what they're trying to make it into this legend thing, like the Max Talbot legend, so.
I wish that, and we talked about this a little bit about what Toronto's problem is privately. I don't know what we said on the show before, but what's been missing from their lineup is grit, and they need that battle, that passion. So that was a good example of it. And they added Kyle Clifford, who had a big hit in one of their earlier wins and stuff. They've added some grit, and they are willing to get a little dirtier as a team. I don't mean dirty as in undisciplined. I mean going to the dirty areas, as they say, or doing things like a fight like that. But I think that's just an overall way that you have to play. They're already a good team. That fight doesn't make them any better or worse of a team. It didn't really do anything to them. Like you said, in that moment, they just all of a sudden started to play like they can play in the last few minutes. And they could just as easily have lost that game. I'm sure there's many times where a team has fought and then their team has lost. And so can we use that as an example where, fighting didn't motivate their team? Like it doesn't work? Why is this always like, see, fighting works? See, this was the only reason. But then all those other times, like, why didn't the Columbus guys fight? Make his team win. Could I look at that the other way and say, hey, the Columbus guy fought, their team blew a 3-goal lead, so they shouldn't fight because it doesn't work.
Well, they should have been emboldened. They were up 2-0, right? And then they kind of try to come back, and then he actually beat up Spezza, right? So you should have felt like, yeah, you guys try whatever you want. We're like coming at you more. And of course they did get the next goal and kept them held down until 4 minutes left. Now on this one, Josh, there's 4 minutes. Actually, I want to talk about this now. I looking at that 4 minutes, it was amazingly, I don't want to say luck as in, oh, they got lucky. What I mean is luck as in chance, like that thing that exists in the world, these probabilities of things that can bounce one way or the other that are not in your control. And they went the Leafs' way for 4 minutes. It was unbelievable. They pulled the goalie 3 times, as you know, to get those goals. It wasn't like 4 minutes and they got one and they're like, oh, this is great. Now maybe we'll pull it with 3 and try to get the second. They pulled their goalie with 4. Great move. Scored. And how many times did Columbus have a look at the empty net? They had to I was just like, okay, they got the empty net. Like this is over. Oh, it's not over. I can't believe it's not over. Right? Yeah. Gus Nyquist had a chance and Riley blocked it. That was the third one. There's another one. Atkinson turns around and misses, right? There's another one. That guy ripped it off the side of the thing, right? I mean, it's right there. Put him in the net. No, it's like, it was almost like, no, this is happening. On their entries, they're coming in with the, and trying to get to break into the zone. And it just like would bounce. The guy got a stick on it. You're like, oh, they broke that up. And it just bounces off the guy and back on his stick in front of him. And they keep it inside. It's like, how did they get in there? Like that should have been a turnover. Or if there was a turnover, then you're like, okay, that's the end of that. But yeah, it just kept happening.
On the empty net over and over again. I don't understand it. And on the overtime winner, I can't remember who passed it across, but Austin Matthews obviously scored. And I remember thinking right before the buddy passed it, the defenseman actually played it very well. He went towards Tavares, you said? That what you said? He went towards Tavares, the Columbus defender, and then before Tavares passed, he like backed off, like kind of like, haha, I fooled you into making the pass, now I'm going to pick it up. And I was like, no, don't pass it, he's on to you. And then somehow the pass got through anyway. I couldn't believe it. It was in the cards.
Well, he fooled him into making a pass to Austin Matthews, who is money from there. And that was just game over as soon as he shoots that. And it also on that other thing, like Korpisalo was like unbeatable. And then it goes through him. And then all of a sudden it was just anything that could bounce near them was going in, right? So it's like, the way Hyman scored through his leg, like it just goes in and found these little holes. The whole thing was like, so again, the big boys came out, Toronto's big boys, who really, that's their team. Like we talked, not really much D depth. Sorry, Leafs fans, I'm telling you, just facts over feelings here. No D depth, bottom 6 depth, not really. But top 6, you've got like as good a team as any, right? And you've got 3 superstars among those top 6, and then good players with them. So they came out, they put their big boys out, depended on them to like save their season. The big boys stepped up and did it, got it all done, and then won it in overtime. I mean, what can you say about that? I mean, it's just, that is what Leafs Nation was waiting for, hoping for. It's the best thing ever for them, like just the feeling of it. And I wonder, do you want to say something about it?
I just fear for Leafs fans. I did say online today, I almost want the Leafs to lose Game 5 only because I think 70% of the fan base forgot that they still need to win a Game 5. Like, because they've been talking about this win and they're so excited and this is how it feels. And, no, you're not there yet, folks.
You're not there yet. And isn't that what we say? They're planning the parade route every win in the regular season. They get so excited, like, okay, we are the best team ever again. We are, it has worked. And then they lose and they go, what's wrong with our team? What's Sheldon, what are you doing, buddy? Stop playing music at the practice, or do whatever. You got to get them grittier, or you got to, it's like always up and down. And again, I don't know, we don't have to go on about that right now, but you're right though. Keep it in check, everybody. Enjoy your game 5. What do you want to say what you think for game 5? You told that guy on the street.
I did.
Do you want to tell us?
I told him the Leafs.
You told him the Leafs, and he said, "Get out of
good.
here." Is he just a Canadians fan? Is that why? Like a Leafs hater? Or does he like Columbus somehow? One guy on your street?
I strongly doubt that he likes Columbus. I think he's probably more of a get out of here with your Leafs nonsense, probably, more so than anything.
Okay. But he's aware that you're probably not, a Leafs fan or anything, right? But
I'm sure he's aware, yeah. So he just knows I like hockey. It was quite entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, and at the end of the day, I will say both of us in this one, I recall, we did pick the Leafs from the beginning of the series, right? So why not have it work out for them, get them in the playoffs and give them something excited to look forward to and enjoy their hockey. I mean, that big comeback, you don't want it to go to waste. It was awesome, right? Now cash it in, right. But it's up to them. And that's all. I'll leave it at there. Like, it's up to you to do it. I hope you do it, but just don't think it's done, boys. Get behind it, get busy, get serious, and then will your way to riding that thing out. So,
and Columbus fans out there, that was a trip. Move on.
Yes, that was a trip, the Foligno trip. If you want to know more about his views on that, on Tough Call, I heard you talk about that on your podcast. It's great. Right. So it's a really good take. Go to Tough Call podcast and see what Josh thinks about the Foligno trip. Or it's a trip, right? It was a trip. All right. We're going to go, Josh, and go off and watch this game. What do you think? You're good to go? All right. Guys, we're going to watch Leafs Columbus. It's on, happening. Go enjoy this and enjoy the rest of the playoffs. We'll be back next show with our predictions for the playoffs, at least the first round and beyond with Josh. So, guys, go enjoy. We'll see you next time. But I just like him so much. So I'm actually sympathetic to Vancouver now. We got
you hear that dog?
Is that Bonnie or Lily there?
That's Bonnie. I don't know what's happening, but she's out of control right now.
She's a little excited, is she? Is somebody out there telling her that the Leafs aren't going to win or something?
Maybe.